Today I want to try something called Whiteboard Wednesdays, which is a new little video series that I want to create where I'm going to cover one specific topic on the whiteboard. And in today's case, it's going to be how to consistently finish your music, make content out of it, and eventually release it and launch it, and why you might be having trouble with that consistency part, and why you might not have enough energy to continuously do these three different things and all the other skills that you need as a music producer. We wear so many different hats today, and I think that it's hard to be consistent doing all those different things, whether it's, again, trying to make content and be a creator, trying to build out your website and trying to sell things eventually, trying to do all of these different things. And we as one person have to try to do all of them. And it's hard to be consistent with doing them. And I think there's one thing that a lot of people are missing. And I think that this one thing that we're going to cover today will help with that skill stack. So here's what we're usually looking at when we have some sort of skill stack. We might start off at the beginning and we get the skill of finishing your music or something like that. That's like the first skill that you generally have to have. If you can't finish your music, then you can't really do anything after that. So maybe we finish our music first. And then once we start finishing music, maybe the second thing that you do is you start making content out of that music. So this way you can maybe start to meet other people, which will be our third thing, is maybe like collaborating and connecting with other people in our industry, because now they're seeing us through the content that we've created. And then we can start collaborating and doing outreach to people and working together and connecting with our fan base as well, since they're hearing it. And since those people in our fan base are hearing it, maybe we develop a fourth skill, which is launching our music and marketing it. I can't really fit that in there, but you see what I'm saying. Marketing your music and understanding music marketing. And then once you do that, maybe you launch an album, maybe you launch a sample pack, whatever it is, and you eventually want to try to learn how to sell your music. And again, these skills can come in slightly different orders and be stacked in different ways. And there's obviously more than just these 5 skills, but this is usually kind of the process or stepping stones that a typical producer might take or a typical music maker might start off with. But the thing is, with each of these steps in the ladder that we're taking here, we're building more and more skills, and we're compounding the amount of time that we have to put towards each of these skills. And if you don't understand how to allocate that time efficiently towards those different skills, you will be caught up in an endless loop in a feedback cycle of trying to run around and do all of them at once. And you'll never be able to stay consistent with it. You'll start burning out. You won't have the energy to consistently create content and make music and eventually release it and sell it and do the marketing around it. What you need is one more skill, which really lies beneath all of the rest of these skills. And that skill is, again, our foundation in this case. And as a civil engineer, I learned a lot about foundations in particular. I liked structures, it was what I did. And we learned a lot about foundations and how important they are to the entire structure. Because if you don't have this foundation, then the entire structure above it won't be able to stand, right? And another idea that comes from this is that we need the same, again, foundation in our music production. And what that one is having some sort of operating system. And this part kind of comes from, this is a little sloppy, but this part comes from computer science and computer engineering, because my roommates were actually computer engineers and computer scientists. And what we're looking at here is that if we don't have a good foundational operating system to run all of these other skills on, or in a computer terms, the programs or software that you're using, then you're going to think that the software really sucks, right? If you have a really old computer that has a really bad operating system, when you go to run a piece of software and it's super slow and you run a whole bunch of different pieces of software and they all suck, you're going to be like, oh, this software sucks. You don't really think about the computer itself. You consistently just try to run the things, and then you realize afterwards that it was actually the OS that was lacking, because the OS couldn't power the softwares appropriately and keep up with the demand from each of those softwares. So what we need to do is build an initial operating system that can then handle all of the skills that we stack on top of it, so we can consistently produce these pieces of content, collaborate with other people, launch and market our music, and eventually sell it and make a profitable music career off of it through connecting with our fans and getting our music heard. And so the way that this usually happens and why people usually have problems with it is something that I call the 5 problems from a lack of an OS. And as you can see, this is just a really crappy looking pile. And that's actually the first one. It literally just like looks like a piece of crap. Like this doesn't look good whatsoever. And the reason being is because there's no structure to it whatsoever. It's all just piled on there. Like nobody really knows what the heck any of this is. And because no one knows what it is, you lack the confidence to stack any more skills on top of it. You've hit this sort of plateau and your music starts to feel stagnant. Again, because there's no structure, because it just kind of feels like a pile of crap, and you need to figure out and get confident in a way to eventually put out this music and again, create the content and do all these other things. But if you don't have a proper stack and you don't actually create the proper OS underneath the entire stack, the foundation that holds the rest of them up, then you're not going to be confident in adding new skills because you're always going to feel so overwhelmed with the ones that you're currently juggling. The next thing is that you notice all this white stuff that's kind of gluing it together. And that's just like the excess waste that we have, all these other things that we have to put into our system to try to keep up with all the Joneses, so to speak, and try to force out pieces of content. I hear that from producers all the time. They're like, oh, I feel like I'm forcing out content. This doesn't feel authentic to me. And my thing is, yeah, it's because you're not doing it right. You don't have the proper system. You're just trying to do whatever the heck other people say. And that's kind of this glue or excess waste that's holding things together. You're just trying to do whatever feels right in the moment instead of having a plan and taking action on it. And again, building on the foundation that you initially set. And the last problem that occurs from a lack of OS is that you'll start seeing syncing and settlement issues over time. And again, this literally comes from foundations in engineering terms. If you have a house or you have a building, for example, and you don't build the foundation properly underneath that building, the building will start to settle in different ways. And sometimes that settlement can cause cracks in the foundation and also cause things to start to topple over and fall over, which is what eventually happens with music in this case. You will start to see cracks in the music that you're making and the content that you're producing. Your fan base will stop growing and stop resonating with the music that you're making. And eventually, all of that pressure topples you over and makes you almost want to give up on music because the content that you're putting out isn't hitting. You feel overwhelmed because you're trying to juggle all these things and you don't have the time to do it. And also you're trying to maybe market it and sell your music, but you don't even know where to start with doing that. And again, all of this anxiety, stress, and overwhelm in this particular case comes from this simple lack of having an operating system or a foundation underneath these different pillars or skills that we're trying to create and stack up for ourselves. So again, the idea here is that we need to create this foundational part underneath, which is our operating system, if we want to accomplish any of the other skills above it. So if you're a music maker who wants help being consistent with finishing your music, putting out the content, the music marketing, and just getting started with eventually selling and launching that music to build up your audience, then check out the link below to the music producer community that we started, where we're working together to try to do exactly that and help each other out on the lessons that we learn and sharing all the things along the way on this music journey. Also, hopefully you guys enjoyed this first Whiteboard Wednesday segment, and I'll be continuously doing these every single week. And hopefully if you guys want, also leave in the comments below any topics or questions that you'd want me to cover, and I'll continuously do these again every single week and try to put them out. So with that being said, until next week, peace.